Endicott by Kid Creole and the Coconuts on Revenge of the 80s Radio. On the phone with me now is one of the Coconuts, Janique Svedberg, who was with the band between 1985 and 1995. Like the rest of the group, Janique is quite multi-talented and is also dedicated to helping people overcome addiction. Janique, thank you for coming on Revenge of the 80s with me.
Thank you very much.
Well, very happy to have you here. Let's start at this point. How did you become a coconut?
Well, I was born in Sweden in a little town called Gothenburg, and Bruce Springsteen and his gang, when he was going solo for a little while, came to Gothenburg, and I fell in love with one of his band members, and through the band, I came to New York City. And the first month I was in New York, me and this guy, we went to a private party at Kid Creole's triplex apartment on the Upper West Side, and he looked at me and he said, "Hey kiddo, can you dance and sing?" And I said, "Yes, I can." And he asked me to do an audition because one of the Coconuts were just leaving, and I did that audition and I got the job, and I was on tour 1 month later.
That was a quick move into the music business.
It was very quick, and when I got there, I was first of all 16 years old, while everybody else in the band was a lot older, at least for me back then. And I never been around, the rock and roll business at all. So for me, it was very, very strange and new. And Kid Creole and Coconuts were very famous when I joined them. So it was weird to have like your own bodyguard and, things like that. It was really, really quick into the fast pace of rock and roll, really.
From falling in love with a bassist to touring the world with Kid Creole and the Coconuts.
That is correct.
Janique, you also have a background in art. In fact, you own a couple of art galleries.
That is correct. I owned 2 art galleries, one here in New York City and one in Hong Kong. And the names was The Time Is Always Now, and we owned them for about 15 years, I think.
15 years. How did you get into the art business?
It actually kind of just stumbled upon me. I mean, I always loved art. I know nothing about it, though, but I loved it. And a very dear friend of mine had in his mind to open up an art gallery. So when I kind of slowed down the touring with Kid Creole, he asked me, he said, "Hey, listen, let's do something. Let's open up an art gallery." And we found this enormous space in Soho. It was 20,000 square feet. It was an old winery, and we transformed it into like a living and breathing art space for artists. And it became really well known for a long, long time. It was really fun.
Who are some of your favorite artists?
Well, I have so many of them, but one of the artists that we represented, his name is Peter Beard, and he is a wildlife photographer that also doodles and do blood and stuff and that on his photographs. And he's wildlife in Africa, so they're African wildlife. He is one of my absolute favorites. And then it's another one called Victor Four. He died in 1980 something. And he actually lived in Amsterdam, and he made art out of driftwood and paper. And he was just really fantastic and almost like naive kind of art. And so him, I'm probably love the most of all.
As if that's not enough, Janique, you've also been featured in the reality TV series The Swedish Housewives of New York. Talk about that show.
Yeah, that was a really funny part of my life. I was here in New York, and the Swedish TV called me and asked me if I would be interested to interview for the Swedish New York Housewives. And I said, of course, I would love to at least interview. And they interviewed about 40 people here. And then they picked 4, and I was one of them. And it is a really cool experience to have a camera crew following you around for about a month in New York. You get very aware of what you do. So it was a really fun experience. And it was also really fun to work with Sweden again.
Is it anything like the Housewives shows we have here, like the Real Housewives of New York or Beverly Hills?
Actually, it's not at all. The ones here are very like cat fighty, and they argue with each other and stuff like that. In the Swedish New York Housewife, I never met the other wives. So it was just almost like documentaries of each our lives, but we have such an interesting and different life, so it became really cool and fun. I got married on the show, and it was all of this kind of cool and kooky stuff, but we never met, so it was never like cat fights and stuff like that.
Yeah, the catfights can get annoying. I guess Swedish producers don't like that sort of thing, huh?
I don't know. Maybe they come back and want us to fight. Who knows?
Janique Svedberg, a former member of Kid Creole and the Coconuts, is my guest on Revenge of the 80s Radio. Straight ahead, we'll talk about what made Janique decide to become an addiction coach, and she'll talk more about her own story of addiction and recovery on Revenge of the 80s Radio.